On arrival into the target area, the helicopters came under fire, and they replied with that fire with overwhelming force in self-defense. One of our aircraft was hit, but
one of the U.S. helicopters involved in the January 3rd operation in Venezuela was hit and suffered damage while the mission was underway. CNN, citing comments from U.S. President Donald Trump and reporting relayed via Militarny, noted that Trump publicly acknowledged the helicopter damage. Trump insisted that no Americans were killed in the bid to capture Nicolás Maduro, though he admitted that some U.S. personnel sustained injuries. He also confirmed that a helicopter had been struck, but denied that any of the roughly 150 U.S. aircraft taking part were lost in the action. During the same press conference, the U.S. chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff provided additional details about the nature and extent of the helicopter damage.
As the helicopter force ingressed towards the objective at low level, we arrived at Maduro's compound at 1:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 2:01 a.m. Caracas local time, and the apprehension force descended into Maduro's compound and moved with speed, precision, and discipline towards their objective and isolated the area to ensure the safety and security of the ground force while apprehending the indicted persons. On arrival into the target area, the helicopters came under fire, and they replied with that fire with overwhelming force in self-defense. One of our aircraft was hit but remained flyable, and as the president said earlier today, all of our aircraft came home, and that aircraft remained flyable during the rest of the mission. As the operation unfolded at the compound, our air and ground intelligence teams provided real-time updates to the ground force, ensuring those forces could safely navigate the complex environment without unnecessary risk. The force remained protected by overhead tactical aviation. Maduro and his wife, both indicted, gave up and were taken into custody by the Department of Justice, assisted by our incredible U.S. military with professionalism and precision, with no loss of U.S. life. After securing the indicted persons, the force began to prep for departure. Helicopters were called in to exfiltrate the extraction force, while fighter aircraft and remotely piloted aircraft provided overhead coverage and suppressive fire. There were multiple self-defense engagements as the force began to withdraw out of Venezuela. The force successfully exfiltrated and returned to their afloat launch bases, and the force was over the water at 3:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with indicted persons on board, and both Maduro and his wife were embarked aboard the USS Iwo Jima.
For the assault itself, the United States deployed 2 Delta Force units, brought in from theaters in the Middle East and North Africa. President Trump gave the final go-ahead for the mission after months of intensive intelligence operations inside Venezuela targeting Maduro's inner circle. Over those months, U.S. intelligence agencies had been tracking President Nicolás Maduro's every move, building a precise pattern of life. A small surveillance team monitored where the 63-year-old slept, ate, dressed, and even details about his pets, according to accounts cited by the BBC. Elite troops trained for months using a full-scale replica of the presidential compound constructed from gathered intelligence. Trump said the forces rehearsed the mission in a way reminiscent of the 2011 bin Laden raid, repeatedly training on a mock-up of the target compound. Unfavorable wind and cloud cover over Caracas delayed the strike window for several days, but conditions finally improved on Friday, allowing the operation to proceed. Around 2 o'clock local time, or 6 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time, loud blasts echoed across Caracas and plumes of smoke were seen rising over parts of the capital. As strikes rang out around the city, U.S. forces pushed into Caracas, according to accounts later detailed by outlets such as the New York Times. In the midst of the raid, Maduro and his wife, Cilia Flores, were captured in Caracas and then flown out of Venezuela aboard U.S. aircraft. The pair are now set to face trial on American soil on narco-terrorism charges, bringing the Venezuelan leader before a U.S. court.